Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. I have recently been using some embossing diffusers and thought that I would share how I make my own. Now, an embossing diffuser is most commonly used when you have an embossing folder that is like these ones here. These happen to be 6x6, and you want a little bit in the, usually in the center, a shape that you don't want to emboss, so that will stay plain. So if it's kind of confusing, you'll see how we go along in a minute. But I have these are some cereal boxes here cut down to 6x6. This is a Nutrigrain box, and I am just going to use this because it is a nice thick little piece of board. And I have cut these down to be 6x6 just because this is a handy shape. It is the size card that I am going to create today. But this size diffuser will also fit my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 cards, which I also commonly make. Now today I'm going to make an oval shape, and just because I find it easiest, I like to find the middle of my panel here. So I'm just using some pen. It doesn't matter. This embossing diffuser is not going to go anywhere except for just used by me. So I am going to pop my oval pretty much centered right in the middle there and pop it on with a little bit of low-tack tape. This is the mint tape that I prefer when I'm using low-tack tape, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine just like normal. Now this cereal box cuts perfectly fine, but it is nice and thick. Then once I have one done, I prefer to have 3 layers of this board in particular. Now obviously you might have to have a play around. If you use a really thin piece of card, maybe 4 might be better, but 3 is plenty here. And I'm just going to line one up beneath the other. Then you can see I take off the outside part and then line up my die whilst I hold that inside oval so that I can get these in exactly the same place on all 3 pieces of my cereal box. And that way I'm able to kind of put them together and they will become one thick diffuser. So I've run that through my die cutting machine. Now I'm sure there are other ways to do this as well, but this is just the way that I find kind of the easiest to make sure that they are all in the same spot. So all I do is line up one of the blank ones with one that I have already cut, and so there's my one I've cut and there's my blank one. I'm going to pop it behind. Then I line up the oval right in the center, and I just find it easiest to use the one that I drew the pen on to begin with. And then I hold the oval in the center and I pull the outside piece away, and then I line my die up over top of that. So that's just the way that I find easiest, and I find that I am the most accurate when I do it that way. I want to make sure that all 3 of these are as similar or the same as I can possibly get them, just because it makes for a much neater shape when I'm going to pop them through with my embossing folder. Now I do know that you can purchase these as well, so I know that they're out there on the market, and if that's your thing, go for gold. But I just find it really easy to create my own, and that way I can kind of have the shapes that I want because I pretty much have a basic die shape, so I can create the diffusers that I would like pretty easily. So I have all 3 here, and all I am going to do is glue these together. Now I like to use the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. This is a really strong glue. I know that it's not going to come apart once it is dried, and I pop it into these little bottles just because it's nice and easy to use that way. So once I've got all 3 together and I'm just kind of making sure that they are lined up all perfectly and they match up really nicely, the edges are all nice and straight together, and then I am going to move on to creating my card whilst that dries a little bit. Now this is just a quick simple card to kind of show you how they work. I find that diffusers are really good when I am doing white on white because it kind of has a really strong impact, but I wanted to try and add in a little bit of color so that it's a bit easier for you to see exactly what happens. So this time I am going to add color, but honestly I usually do it when I'm doing kind of a tone on tone card. I find I enjoy that, creating those the most. So this is Squeezed Lemonade Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to be popping this onto my card panel here. This is 6x6 as well. Then I have this embossing folder which is called, I think it's called Diamond Droplets, and you can see that the pattern is all over the embossing folder. Yes, it is kind of sporadic diamonds, but essentially it's all over the embossing folder. Then I'm going to close it up, and on top of my embossing folder I like to kind of tape this in place because I find that way I know it's not going to shift as it goes through my die cutting machine, but you don't have to tape it at all. So I pop it in place, and this is just nice and easy because this one happens to be the same size, the 6x6, but you just line it up wherever you want to. And then when I take this out of my embossing folder, you can see that there is a really nice clean cut oval in the middle which did not emboss. So it's a way where there is no pressure. So there's no pressure because that big empty oval in the middle, there's nothing that will push down on the embossing folder to emboss the pattern into my cardstock. So really easy, and you can use any shapes you want at all and create all sorts of different diffusers. Now I am going to take some mustard seed just to kind of bring it to light a little bit, that we have got that blank space in the middle. So this is just a slightly darker yellow, and I'm using the domed foam blenders. I find these the best when I am using trying to do any sort of ink blending at all, and I'm just going lightly over the top, and you can see that it leaves a really nice blank oval in the middle for me to do something with. Now, to finish this off, I am going to take, this is the Catherine Paula Your Zest Life stamp set, and I have been wanting one of these kind of fruit stamp sets, lemons or limes and things. I love lemons. I love all citrus fruit, but lemons in particular, and it's a little bit of a running joke in my family. I have been after a stamp set like this for a little while, and I finally settled upon this one. I am going to stamp some of the stamps out in some VersaFine Onyx black ink, and I am going to heat emboss these just because it makes it nice and quick for me to colour them. So I usually stamp in the black and then I add some clear embossing powder over top. This is the super fine one, which are the ones that I usually go for. Then I'm going to set it with my heat tool, make sure it goes nice and glossy, and then that way I know that all of the embossing powder is completely melted. I'm going to use some squeezed lemonade and mustard seed distress oxide inks for my lemons. Now, the way that I have been doing this, and I'm sure this is not recommended by Tim Holtz or the manufacturers or anything, but I just squeeze the lid kind of gently of my ink pads, and then that way I get a little bit of ink on the lid of it. I'm sure that's not recommended, and I haven't broken any lids or anything recently, but please don't hold me accountable if that happens. This is just what I do to get a little bit of ink nice and quickly when I know that I'm not going to add too much water or anything like that that would damage the ink pads. Then I am going to do some for the limes, and I add a little bit of Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn just to get the lime colours. The world is your oyster when it comes to kind of decorating the center of these things when you use the diffusers, whether you use squares or rectangles or stars or love hearts or ovals or hexagons. Any shape is going to work really well, and you can even get fancy and kind of do several different die cuts or several different spaces on one diffuser depending on the kind of embossing folders that you're going to use and how heavily patterned they are. They're really fun to have a play around with, so it is really fun if you end up trying to create your own, or if you already own some diffusers. I would love to see your projects and your makes with them. So the best way to do that is to head over to my Facebook page. I will leave a link in the description box below where you can click on it there, and the group is called Come Crafting with Natasha. We are very lucky to have an amazing, pretty big group now. We are growing fast, and I am so grateful. As I said, everybody is so supportive and very encouraging, so you can post your pictures and things over there, and that way I'm able to see all of them. But yeah, and I will also leave links to any of the products that are still available that I've used in this video in the description box down below. Sometimes I use things that aren't available, and I apologize for that, but anything that I can find I will leave links to, and they will be down there. Leave me a comment down below if you use diffusers, or if it's something that you have used in the past and maybe we'll try again. They've been around for a long time. Different versions of them come and go, and I don't think they're super popular, but I have seen them used time and time again, and it's one of those lovely things that you can kind of create your own and have in your stash ready to go just for that kind of right opportunity to use them. So I am going to finish this off by popping my little pieces of lemons and limes and a little bit of foliage around there. I just wanted to angle these ones out a little bit more, and then to finish this off I'm going to add there's some little dots on that foliage that I'm just going to pop some little Nuvo dots. You could also use some enamel dots. I had those to the side that I thought I might end up using. So you can see I've just popped tiny wee dots there. Then I'll pop a few more here, there and everywhere around. This is a very yellow citrusy card that I really enjoyed creating today actually. And I know that I have covered up some of where the diffuser kind of left the space in the middle empty, but it's just where the card took me, and I just really enjoyed creating it. I am going to finish this off by using some glossy accents just to do that gorgeous lemon slice there, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do the 2 of those. Now this is a kind of dimensional liquid that goes on a little bit cloudy, but it is a little bit dimensional and it dries completely clear and nice and glossy, and it will help those gorgeous little lemon slices really stand out on the card. Now I will show you in a second when we're finishing this video what they ended up looking like when they were dry as well. But apart from that, I hope you have enjoyed this video today. Please, as I said, let me know if you still use diffusers, embossing diffusers, down in the comment section down below. And other than that, I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you then. Thanks, bye.